So Dad used to always say, don't go out and embarrass the family name. And then Mom would say, well, don't go out and just blow holes in the sky, try to hit something. So, there's really encouragement there. And we were thinking the same thing, but we hadn't talked about it. And then finally, when all this practicing got over with and the kids had their state shoot, I said one night, Matt, why don't we get our guns and let's just shoot around, And within the second or third shot, both of us just hung black clouds. And we both stopped at the same time and looked at each other and goes, I thought there was something wrong with these targets. And Matt goes, I did too. But now the targets, the presentation's different. I don't see them as quick, and they're starting to get out there further. I mean, there's all these transitions that you have to go through if you're going to stay in the game for 50 years. You're not going to be the same shooter that you think you wanted to be or were. Like in 2020, the COVID year, shot at Lynn Creek, and I think I missed 4 out of on the last trap of the clay target. Yeah. And I think I broke a 180 something. And after we got through the Heartland Grand, there was a couple weeks between when they had the U.S. Open and the Missouri Fall Handicap at the same time. I had to go out and kind of re-event, and went through a whole process, and then came back at that and broke a lone 200. Remember that down there, Ricky?
Yep.
And I had to shoot different. I couldn't shoot the way I shot. That was the end of that road.
Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. Like, share, and subscribe. This podcast is sponsored by the following. Remington, made with pride in the USA. Iconic American impact. Wenig Custom Gun Stocks. Head on down for your custom fitting. Remember, winners shoot Wenig. Shot Tracker. Like having a coach on your barrel. For more info, go to takeaimtech.com. Life is too short to miss. RM Shooting Clinics, helping shooters from coast to coast. Have Ricky take your game to the next level. Zach Nannini at Northwestern Mutual. Trusted advice from someone you know. We believe in putting people first. Other supporters for Trap Talk. The Nevada State Trapshooting Association. Don't miss their 75th annual state shoot this October in Las Vegas. The NSTA puts on some great shoots, and they're going big for this year's state. Go to nvtrap.com to check out their program and all other shoots as well. Welcome to another episode of Trap Talk. My name is Zach Nannini. I'm your host, and I'm here with my co-host Richard Marshall Jr. and our guest Dale Stockdale from the Stockdale Gun Club in Iowa. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Welcome.
Ricky, could you please introduce our guest?
Absolutely. So we got Dale Stockdale. He's the current vet captain of the 2024 All-American team for the 2023 target year. But Dale's been shooting since 1970. That's a long time. I was born in 74. But I've known Dale since, I guess, about 1988, since I first started shooting. I went to his club about every weekend shoot they'd have with Frank Hoppy. But so Dale's a 12-time All-American. Like I said, he's a current vet captain. He made it as a junior shooter and also on the open team. And then the other times, Dale, I think you were on sub vet.
Yes.
So Dale's been shooting, like I said, 1970, multiple state team awards with the state of Iowa. State championships. I know this year, or for the 2023 target year, Dale was the doubles champion. I watched that shoot off, and he just smoked 20 in the shoot off to win that. But Dale also has 556,825 registered targets. Now, probably 3 times that amount of practice. But so, Dale, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be on, I think.
You'll be fine.
It's great to have you on, Dale. We've had a lot of people ask about you, obviously, because one, you run a very, very popular gun club and a very, very popular shoot, the Heartland Grand, which me and Ricky always talk about. And we tell everyone to come up there because of the efficiency at which you run a shoot. You're able to turn 300 targets quicker than anyone that I've seen in the country. And you just do a really good job of making it a lot of fun and making people want to come back. And we'll definitely talk about that a little bit later. But to start the show, we want to talk a little bit about you. So how did you get into trap shooting? I know, I've heard a little bit about your family of trap shooting. So tell our listeners, what your story is.
Well, basically, when your dad's on the All-American team and basically paid off the farm with his shooting accomplishments through the early and middle 50s into the 60s, it was a big interest to me. I was born in 56, and that was a year after the 27-yard line was added. And, he was the first in the country to the 27. So there's always a lot of, I grew up with a lot of people interested in how he was shooting and what was going on. And he would share experiences all the time, riding to the shoots. I'd listen to him talk, and it just made me want to shoot. And I was always bugging him about, come on, Dad, I want to shoot. And I was relatively small at that age, and he was afraid that I would start flinching right away if I started too quick. And so I guess he got me kind of going when I was 13 and 14 years old. He thought that was a good start. And like I've always said, as soon as I started shooting, I just wanted to beat him. And I figured if I could beat him, I could beat everybody else. So it was always that goal.
Absolutely.
And so that's what started it. We never had a trap here. We always had to drive to other gun clubs to shoot practice. And it's just you guys have been here, you can see every acre we got, and there's not enough land here for two families to make a living. And I knew that as soon as I got in high school or out of high school, that I'd have to work off the farm, and I'd figure out a way to pay for shooting. So if I'm going to shoot, obviously, it was to put a trap in and then get serious about it. But that didn't happen until about 81, 82. I did spend some time from 74 to 81 or 2 trying other stuff like drag racing and riding Harleys and drinking a lot of beer and stuff like that. But I settled down in about 81 and decided I'm going to be a trap shooter. And my first goal was to get on the Iowa State men's team. And I accomplished that. And that was with the help of having my own trap to focus on practicing here.
So when did you open that gun club? Is that gun club on the family land that your dad paid off from trap shooting? Is that all the same place still?
That's correct. He didn't have a trap though. We always had to go someplace to practice. And so it wasn't until I got out of high school and put the first trap in and made a place to shoot that's how that got started. And it's really against all of his objections because he always says, you put that trap in here, you're going to lose the farm. And, it still rings true. I mean, I could make a big mistake out here and could still lose the farm. And I've lost half a farm through other things I've done. And so anyway, I'm hoping to not let that prediction come true that he had. But
the way that the Harlan's going, I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, Ricky, we're setting up people there left and right. We love it.
We're trying to get that attendance up, Dale, for the Heartland Grand. And that's, one of the cool things, Dale, though, and let's get back to talk about, I know you're not big on talking about your accomplishments and stuff, but, you've been doing this a long time, and you come out west. You've always shot in Tucson. I mean, I remember, Phoenix at the old, Phoenix Gun Club off old Indian School Road. I had my first gun stolen there one time. That's how I remember that place so bad. But, shooting out west, you meet a lot of people. Everybody knows who you are. We had a lot of people ask, why haven't you had Dale on the podcast yet? I'm like, well, Dale's a farmer. He's busy. He's trying to run a gun club, and, a lot of people don't like to talk about their accomplishments, and that's cool. But we need to talk about yours. You've done so much for the game. You were just inducted into the ATA Hall of Fame this year at the Grand, which was cool because, your dad was inducted in 82. Is that right?
82.
Yeah. And he was the first person to ever make the 27-yard line. And I know I read the story years ago because I'm a historian of shooting, but Arnold Rieger made the 27 the same day, but a later squad.
Right. He basically, it was going to, from the way Dad told it to me and all them stories. Then I
Yeah.
later on, before Dan Orlick died, I called Dan because I wanted to hear it from somebody else. And it's funny, when Dan started talking, he told it so exactly the same as what Merle. I mean, I thought I was talking to Dad, you
Yeah.
know, and he told it. But there was a real popular shooter back in the day that was shooting live birds or something, and the ATA had such a hoopla over adding the 2 yards of concrete. There's going to be a real celebration at Las Vegas, so they put Joe Devers in Dad's spot, and Dad was always felt that he was just a farmer from Iowa, and they could do whatever they wanted with him. He felt good to have a spot.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was shooting. They were all shooting at the New Mexico State Shoot, and Dad won the handicap from the 25. So he went to Las Vegas, and they had the new concrete poured and everything. And being he didn't have a spot, he decided to shoot early, and he thought he could post a score for him to try to beat.
Yeah.
Well, Dan told me him and Arnold and everybody fouled him trap to trap because they'd never seen anybody shoot from the 26. And then they thought, well, gal, I guess you can do it, because he broke a high score. Well,
Yeah.
then later on in the day, Arnold also, I think Arnold broke a higher score than Dad, but the yard was still a high enough score to move him back to the 27 first. So Dad always laughed. They had to change the cake decorations at the clubhouse, take Arnold's name off and put Merle's on. And so then Dan was third, and that's really kind of how that went.
Nice. Well, so speaking of that a little bit, and what is, I know, so your dad was a legend of shooting, hands down. Now, did that put more pressure on you shooting, or was it the attitude of, hey, if I could just beat my dad, that's all the better? Or,
Well, I'm not alone at this. There's a lot of families that have siblings and people that shoot.
yeah,
And it's just not a pressure that I've had to hold myself. It's a lot of people go through this, but yeah, it's always, what does Dad think or whatever.
hmm,
Well, Dad was declining. He got kind of hurt in or a tractor accident about the time I really started to want to shoot. Like in '66, he hurt his left leg, and in fact, it made it so he couldn't put the weight on his front foot like he probably should have.
okay,
And that affected his shooting because he couldn't pivot right and left
yeah,
the way he should. And so he really shot kind of poorly in the late '60s and '70s until that sciatic nerve and everything went away. And then he kind of made a comeback and shot really good as a vet. He would have probably made the Hall of Fame with his accomplishments as a vet or a senior vet, but he
nice.
didn't have to. He did it the other way.
It's the other way,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So it really wasn't about beating Dad when I got old enough, because he wasn't really breaking those scores.
Like he
But
was.
it's always, like look at Eric Munson or
Yeah,
Jackie, or there's all kinds of people. It's two in the family, and one of them, if they're in the Hall of Fame, you're like, oh God, And so it's just there. It's just another little weight you got, and you carry it all your life. And
yeah,
I really wanted to research that 27-yard thing from a different perspective, and I'm so glad I got to talk to Dan, because I wanted to know that it was actually the way Dad always told it, and it just really, to me, verified the honesty that the guy had. And so, in not only shooting, I've tried to really be like my dad, I guess, and it's you. You don't. I don't go out and take pictures on Facebook and line up all the trophies and stuff. I mean, if you're really shooting good, people are going to know it anyway.
yeah,
So you just go to the next shoot. I mean, this shoot's over, and then go try to win it again
yeah.
or do good. And so, Dad used to always say, "Don't go out and embarrass the family name." And then Mom would say, "Well, don't go out and just blow holes in the sky. Try to hit something." So there's really encouragement there.
That's I understand. That's what I've got my son Tyler that shoots, and he made the All American team his first full year shooting, last year or the year before, and then last year he kind of got off track a little bit. Things changed, and he didn't make it, But I asked him, I said, "You feel the pressure?" And he goes, "Well, Dad, you're in the Hall of Fame. You've been captain of this." And he goes, "I just always say, hey, if I'm standing there and I'm shooting close to you, maybe I'll win something." And I said, "Well, that's a great attitude to have. My dad didn't shoot a lot, but my second dad, I'll call him Frank Hoppy, did, and so Tom Buxman. They
Yeah.
kind of and so I was always trying to keep up to them, and and I was fortunate that who Frank traveled with a lot, Leo. So when I was younger, shooting against with them, I was like, hey, if I could just not embarrass myself on the squad, this might be a good week. So
Well, it's kind of the same thing here. I mean,
yep,
I don't know how many miles it is across Hardin County, Iowa, but it's a little county, really. But to have four people in the Hall of Fame that are from the same county,
yep,
it makes you get on the best squad you can, or you try to always shoot up. You don't want
yep.
to shoot down. Always try to shoot better and try to be, in every squad, and your squads are the same way. If you can win your squad, you're probably going to win the shoot.
Win the shoot.
And there's a dozen other squads out there that's the same thing. If you're
Yeah.
not high on your squad, you're not going to win the shoot.
Yep.
And so a lot of times the
100%.
trophy you're wanting to shoot for is your squad mate, your friend. He gets it.
Well, yeah, no, and that's true. I mean, Zach and I shoot a lot together. I used to shoot a lot with Leo, and Leo and I said that one year we were shooting the Southwest Grand in San Antonio, and he said, "Well, let's see if we can be on high on the squad this week." And there was, I think, Lucky Nightingale was shooting with us, Dana Dobson. I can't remember who the other one was. I think Jody shot with us one year down there too. But it was funny is the high person that week at that shoot on our squad won the event. Every event, our squad won.
Yeah.
And we got done, and I remember sitting there drinking the Diet Pepsi with Leo because that's what he loved to drink. And he goes, "Well, I think we had a pretty good week." I kind of chuckled, and I was like, "Yeah, they're not going to let us shoot together anymore."
Nah, it's over.
Yeah, but
So-
that's a cool thing,
So Dale, you said there was 4 All-Americans from the same county, 4 Hall of Famers?
Yeah, 4 Hall of Famers: Dean Bright, Larry Bumstead, my dad, and I.
So
And
is
I
it
kind of
you-
grew up in between all that. I
Yeah.
mean, Larry and Dean were of an era,
Yep.
but who I really liked to watch was Larry Gravestock and Dan Benias and Carmichael when they were in their heyday. There's like waves of shooters, and then there's all this change that happens to the game, and then how the shooters adapt and then continue on, or who quits and retires or whatever. But there was really like to watch Dan and Gravestock and them guys shoot when I was a kid. And then naturally Larry and Dean were practicing here, and they picked up things that Dad did, like barrel bending and taping up stocks and all that stuff. And that was before adjustable guns came out.
Yeah.
Was when they were shooting. And in fact, Dad had a Browning over and under, and he used a bottle jack and strapped it to the John Deere plow and actually bent the pair of barrels up to get them shooting in the right spot. And it shot really good. And then he sold it, and Dean Bright bought it. And that was the gun that he set his 600 and some target record in doubles, shooting bent barreled over and under Browning.
He must have done it the right way.
So it was, got it to shoot in the right spot, and did well for him.
So I want to spend a second there because you said you watched Benez, you watched these great guys. When you were watching them, were you picking up any things that they were doing that was different than other guys? I mean, was there some characteristics that they had that you integrated into your game where you said, "Oh wow, look at that little tidbit of knowledge"?
Well, later on, video cameras came out. Remember them big things you'd carry over your shoulder?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually would go and video those guys from the feet up. And I didn't care about whether they hit the bird or not. I just wanted to see every bit of everything that they all did. And then my take was to try to do something that they all did, because I didn't want to blaze any new trail. If you're unique at something, you're on your own. But
Yeah.
if you stand the way they do and try to point the way they do, but yet even though you're an individual, I mean everybody's got their own brain they got to work with. I just tried to take what I could see from them. I never really spoke to Carmichael. I never said a word to Gravestock. I watched him shoot. I watched Leo and him shoot off at Iowa one time in a downpour, and I can't remember who won that shoot off. But I did talk to Dan a little bit. We became friends over the years, and it's everybody's their own. Your bodies are different, your brain,
Yep.
you think different, your everything's different. But yet, to me, if everybody's holding this kind of a point of impact, I mean, starting hold, let's say hold point, all them guys are doing it like that. Well, then maybe I better look into that and
Yeah.
figure out why I'm not doing that. I mean, it's just there's so many really great shots, and the answers are out there. I mean, just get out of the camper and get off the video games and just go out there and watch them shoot. Stand
Yeah.
behind them.
You're
Back in the
100% right.
like I broke 100 from the 26 and a half at the Iowa State shoot. And the next day there were people 5 or 6 or 7 deep watching me shoot back in like 78 or 9, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Remember the crowds that used to follow
Oh, yeah.
Benias and everybody? You don't see that anymore.
No.
I mean, I just don't understand it. I mean, a lot of times I'm just out there and what are you doing? Well, watching so-and-so. Or, nowadays it's new names, the new young guys.
Yep.
I watch Dagan. I watch Keith. I watch these guys. And I hang around enough, end up becoming friends, because I'm around. But I'm actually watching them to see, how do they do that? I don't know how they do it, how they break so many.
Well,
How do they
It's
do
very
that?
impressive to watch.
that's what we
Yeah.
did. I did as a kid. I remember going to the Grand the first year, and I went around and watched. Of course, I knew Leo back in '88. I met him at the Missouri State shoot because of Frank, but I watched Leo's squad. I watched Frank's squad. I went and watched Benias. All these big names. Britt Robinson. I watched
Yeah.
Britt.
Oh my
the
God!
first-
Remember that
yeah.
shoot off when he
Oh.
won the
The
handicap?
handicap. Well,
Oh my
that year,
God.
Dale, I shot the prelims with him, and it was kind of funny. I was standing in line and going to sign up for the prelims, and Devin Harris, Lloyd Taylor Jr. I don't know if you remember Lloyd. Lloyd said, "Who you shooting with?" And I go, "I'm just standing in line to get a squad." He goes, "Oh, we got an opening." So I said, "Oh, okay." So I jumped on, go out to shoot, and who's standing there on post 5? Britt Robinson. And I went, like I'm a 16-year-old kid going. And it was so funny as I watched him shoot. I would shoot. I think I shot on 3. I would shoot, whoever was on forward shoot, and then I'd look over every time. And finally, someone goes, "Hey, Rick, you might want to be paying attention to targets." And I said, you can't see the target when Britt shoots. He shoots it so fast. So I'm watching him. But that's the thing that these kids nowadays, and a lot of them don't, they don't go and watch. And I always said, if you go and watch somebody, just see kind of what they're doing. And that's why everybody used to watch Leo. I mean, I remember at the Tucson chain shoot one year, there must have been 150 people watching Leo. I was on the squad, and it was the year that Leo had his gun over his shoulder, and he looked over at me and he goes, "You see my gun?" And I looked over and I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "It's not in the gun rack." And I go, "Look to the right." And he looked to the right and he goes, "Oh." And we chuckled and he goes, "You think anybody heard that?" And all these people started laughing. And we went out to shoot. We got done with that trap, went to shoot second trap. And I said to Big Guy, I said, "Check out all them people back there watching." He goes, "Yeah, I know." I said, "They're watching me." But that's all I said. And he laughed. And he goes, "Yeah, they probably are." But that was the thing. And everybody would say, "Leo, how do you do this? Leo, how do you do that?" Well, like you said, you're in the group of your own. Leo shot a way that you really can't teach. He arm shot, he canted the gun, but he made it work for him.
Yeah.
Hello, Trap Talk listeners. Zach Nannini here, and I'd like to thank our show sponsor, Remington. And today, I would like to go into what shells I use when I'm training and when I'm shooting tournaments. First of all, we start with the Gun Club. This is a great shell. I shoot an 1145 ounce and 1/8. And this is what I shoot for singles and both shots of doubles. The only reason I don't shoot this in tournaments is because I like a little bit of a harder shot, a little bit of a harder break, but it works great, and it's the same speed as this STS shell. So this STS shell, a little bit harder shot, figure 8 wad column, smokes the targets a little bit harder. Also, I shoot for singles and doubles, both shots. And then when I go to the back fence and I want to put the smoke on them, I bring out the Nitro 27, Alcinate 7.5. It's a 1235 shell, blast the targets, works really well. I hope these shells work for you, and I want to thank Remington for supporting Trap Talk.
You know, I got a Leo story too. I think when he was a sub-junior, it was like my last year of being a junior. This would have been like in 75 or something, or maybe it had to be later than that. If I have to look up Atari and see when Asteroids came out.
Yeah.
But a guy from Iowa, Hart Johnson, he had arcade games, and he set up a tent with arcade games at the Iowa State Shoot. And Leo and I were chumming around, and we were shooting together. And he went into the arcade game and started playing Asteroids.
Yeah.
Remember where you have a little spaceship and you shoot all them little things?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I spent probably, God, I don't know how much money, and all you'd win is more spaceships so you could play longer.
Yeah.
Well, Leo, he started playing, and he, big hands he had, he just going like this, pounding away. Well, he put a whole row of spaceships across the screen and halfway across the bottom. I didn't know the game, you could even win that many.
Yeah.
And hell, a game would go for probably a half hour then. So he'd put up 20 or 30 spaceships and leave. Then we'd go do something, goes, well, I better go back there. And so he'd go into the arcade room, maybe a little kid playing, go, here, get out of the way. And he'd go like, hey. Well, then he'd put like another 30 ships up there and then leave. And I'm like, we're going to have trouble with this guy. You know, he sees something that,
Oh, yeah.
you know, he saw the pattern or whatever. I just knew that he was going to be, I mean, he was probably 15, and I just knew that he was going to be one of the best shots just over watching him play that game. I mean, it was amazing.
It wasn't good. It started in the arcade and just carried over for the rest of his life.
Yeah, the Trapshooting was just a video game for him, an arcade. You know, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. No.
He's a hell of a
I heard a
shot.
similar story, with Ron Alcariza playing Duck Hunter, and he had that little pistol that you used to have, the Atari Duck Hunter, that shoot the duck off the screen or whatever. Well, his son went in and he said he watched him, and he said he was like 5,000 ducks straight or something, and it was just like a little blurb on the screen, and I'm like, holy crap! But I mean, hand-eye coordination has got to have a lot to do with what we do. I would think that's probably one of the most important things, other than mental game and goal setting. I would say that comes into, if you just have the ability, that's going to help a lot. Now, Dale, I know you mentioned you watched a lot of the greats and you took from their game and kind of built it into what works for you. That being said, I want to know what that is. What are you a high gun hold guy like Benitez was in his later? Or are you on the house like me and Ricky? I mean, what's your techniques? What are you doing in singles, doubles, and handicap?
All of that, for me, is subject to change. The backgrounds, and then with age, I've had to change a lot of that, and it'll change year to year and club to club. I mean, I keep a journal so I can go back, I don't know how many years, and I can look up in the journal every time I broke a 200 straight at the clay target, what my hold point was, what the day was, what I did, even what I ate, and then how I went to the shoot off and what happened to shoot off, and look that all up with all that data. And it'll be similar, but some years the hold point's lower and some years the hold point's higher. And then it, like growing up or growing older, I didn't just gradually have to wear bifocals. It was just one day I woke up, I can't see, and I had to get bifocals. Well, trap shooting, there's been things that just all of a sudden, I can't see that. I can't see that target. And then the backgrounds at clubs all over the place are different. And so the hold point really has got to be somewhere below the zone. And in the kill zone, I call it. And in trap shooting, your kill zone is horizontal. It's very flat. Where like in skeet, it's, the kill zone's right out in front of you. You don't point your gun usually at the box where the bird comes out. Or in sporting clay, the bird is coming from a machine way over there in the grass, but you're holding over probably at the end of the kill zone looking for the bird to come. So your eyes are ahead of the bird, and the bird's coming towards the gun, and you just pick a little spot and you shoot it. Well, in trap, it's this way. So you have to see what you're going to shoot and decide where you're going to shoot it, and then you have to have time to move parallel with the bird.
Yeah.
So how can that be one spot?
So you're talking kill zone. You're saying, okay, this is kind of where I want to kill the bird.
Yeah.
That's also relative to when you see it, because if you're not seeing it well, the kill zone is going to go up higher. If you're seeing it really well, then the kill zone is going to go a little bit lower. So would you say, as a rule of thumb, the higher the kill zone, the higher the gun? Are you kind of putting that gun where you first see the bird, kind of like Jimmy Heller does, or what's your...
No, I'd say it's probably more, if that's what Jimmy said, I would say I'm probably more that way, like in singles and doubles. If they're really high, naturally the bottom of the kill zone. And if they're really high, you're really not going to get a look at it because of this streak. It's a streak. And even as quick as you want to shoot the first bird, you still really need to see it. You got to not necessarily lock on it like you're looking at the dimples, but you got to actually be there long enough to see it. And the end of the gun kind of does have to be going in the same direction. I mean, spot shooting is great. On a lower target, you can spot them, but on a way higher target, you might have to travel a little. It's just whatever it takes. And the other thing is, lately, like later on in my life, it's whatever it takes. I mean, okay, I shot this one pair this way, but now I got another pair coming. And how am I going to shoot that pair? Because they're so damned erratic. They're left and right, and they're up and down. And there's days, it used to be, if the wind was in your face, you could kind of plan on the bird going up. You can't count on that. You can have a south wind and the birds go high.
Yeah.
So every pair is different, in my opinion. I just can't stand there and blast like we used to when we all shot here on Tuesdays, when Frank and you and Bradford and Mertz and all them guys would come up here and shoot a bucket of shells. Hell, those days are gone.
Stockdale Gun Club, the Spanish Fork of the Midwest, Zach.
I've heard it. I mean, you've had all kinds of the best shooters in the country just coming over to shoot targets at your place, and if the wind is right, I mean, I'm telling you, these things, they look like big old trash can lids flying in the sky. I mean, I still miss them, but I do my best. I mean, I'm trying.
So I don't know if that's a good answer, but I'm just telling you, with me, it's then to just get over that pair.
Great answer, Dale. I guess you shoot a top single Pillas combo, correct?
Yeah, and I did that because that meant buying that gun was all about doubles, basically, and a top single combo has a higher rib.
Yep.
Than the unsingle. And
so you
with the higher rib,
head out, more vision, more ability, and shoot a top single platform. And are you shooting a pretty high point of impact? Or, I know we talked about bending barrels earlier and getting that point of impact where you're looking. Obviously you can do that with an adjustable rib now. What type of point of impact are you setting your guns up for?
Well, since the release triggers, it's had to go to a higher point of impact. And it'll vary some, but usually it's a full pattern up.
So 15 inches high, roughly.
Quite a ways, yeah. And the reason that I wanted the higher rib on the doubles was because that way you could modify the rib and get it to shoot higher. You could put more notches in it. They came with 3, and I've got 5. And so I could get the point of impact higher. With me, when I went to a release trigger, then I had to go away from an 80-20 or a 90-10. And the release trigger just speeds up that I don't know what you call it.
Yeah,
it makes sense, right? I mean, lock timing, if you can pull the trigger, you're pulling it. And releasing, I mean, it's already ready to go off. All you got to do is kind of let go and boom, the gun's off. So I would think holding the trigger, the release in my mind would be the hardest part of it, is holding on to it until you get all the way into the bird, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, everybody, you got to do your own homework. I mean, just because you find out, talk to 10 shooters and they all shoot 90-10 or 100% or even higher, that don't mean you just dial it in and that's what you're going to shoot. I mean, the best way to do it, the best way, in my opinion, to do it is you just go to a trap and you just start experimenting until you can really get the black out of the target. I mean, literally, every now and then you have a guy that breaks one of them targets really hard. Well, that's because he really got it in the center of the pattern. So if you're out there and you got an adjustable gun, go someplace to a club where you're by yourself and just make that thing blacken a bird.
Yep.
Then when you blacken a target like that, go over to the patterning board and record where it's at. I think it's wrong to do it the other way around. Go to the patterning board and then go out and shoot it. You miss every opportunity you have.
I agree. That's how I set a gun up, and I tell all my students that I don't use a pattern board. We shoot it at targets, get it, I've tried, Dale, you threw me a softball, and I really didn't do it to Zach, but when you said there's that guy that hits that one black, I was going to say, oh, that was Zach at your club at the Heartland Grand. He hit one every once in a while while Justin and I and Bullard are just black clouding him out there.
Hey, you know what? What I've learned with Ricky is you hang out with him long enough, you're going to get some incoming. You're going to get hit with some stuff. It just is what it is. I mean, I just trying to take it in stride, Dale.
No,
Yeah,
but that is true, Dale. I agree with you 100%. And you're from the old school. I mean, you've shot with all the greats, been around all the greats, and watched them and learned. And that's one of the things is sometimes us as shooters try to do things too technical or try to well, let's go to the patterning board. Yeah, so-and-so's guns shooting like, I hear it all the time. Well, Ray Stafford or Harlan Campbell's guns are shooting 30 inches high. And I'm like, there's two people that could shoot them that high, Harlan and Ray. You need to get your own, area. So go to the trap, set it on straightaway, and go from there. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, well,
it's whatever. Yeah. It's whatever blackens a target, and that's what you said, Dale. I mean, it's like, okay, why wouldn't I want to know what hits the targets hard for me? Because everybody's got different gun speed, everybody's got different movement of a gun, everybody's shooting different stuff. I mean, so finding that center, I mean, I think that's a great
I don't
takeaway.
think that's coached hardly at all, because we have 3 or 4 high schools that practice here.
Yeah.
And there's no way Matt or I can actually help them because there's too many people. We're busy keeping the the trap line running. And it was a couple years ago, or I don't know, we threw probably a semi-load of birds, and neither one of us had shot a shell. And we watched probably 200 kids shoot, and we never saw a blackened target all spring. And in my mind, I was thinking, God, I wonder what white flyer's done to the targets. I mean, is this the shit we're going to be shooting? And I didn't know it because I was working the east, 6 or 8 traps, and Matt was working the west traps when he'd come home from work. And we were thinking the same thing, but we hadn't talked about it. And then finally, when all this practicing got over with and the kids had their state shoot, I said one night, Matt, why don't we get our guns and let's just shoot around, And within the second or third shot, both of us just hung black clouds. And we both stopped at the same time and looked at each other and goes, I thought there was something wrong with these targets. And Matt goes, I did too. And we just couldn't believe it that they're not teaching to get to the center.
Yeah.
They don't even, I'm like, wow.
Well, and I think that happens a lot with, a lot of those guns, those field guns, or, those beginning guns that you get a hold of I don't think they're shooting high enough. I mean, because the target is going up. Now, we don't shoot very high point impacts. I'm shooting 80-20. Ricky, I think, is 75-25, right around there.
25, 80-20, right in there.
But if you've got a 50-50, you got a Mossberg, or you got, Benelli, or you got something that's shooting 50-50 or even lower sometimes.
Yeah, but you can put an athletic stock. You can put a stock on the stock and get the kid to see what that looks like. And then, once a kid boils one, it's like you just hooked them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's okay to crack birds all day, but when you start centering them, that's trap shooting.
Now to get to that, Dale, you said boiling a bird. We've talked about your equipment, your point of impact, kind of your style is varying depending on the day. How about chokes? Are you shooting pretty tight stuff, or what? Shell wise, choke wise, what's that look like?
No, not really. I mean, I used to always be a part of that. You want to shoot as tight as possible to help you do whatever. Well, what I found is when you shoot a really tight choke, let's say really, really, really tight, you can smoke the hell out of half of the bird. And it'll make you feel like, wow, I'm really in the center of these. You're really not. You smoke a big ball of smoke and yet a big hunk is still flying off. I found that shooting a more open choke, you really got to be in the center of it to make it blacken. And so when you're blackening a 16-yard target, let's say with 20 thousandths, you better be in the center because it ain't going to break. And so that keeps me more in the center than shooting a tight choke and getting smoke off a part of the target.
I've never even heard of anyone talk about it that way. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
You start looking at it. Just start looking at it. You'll see it.
So are you shooting the mod then for singles?
I'm shooting a 25 basically.
So light improved mod or light. Yeah, light improved mod is what it'd be.
And then from the fence, you tighten up, or 25 all day?
Well, that's you know what? I don't know. That's a Wilkinson 27-yard choke, and he did it back in 04 or something, 05, and I haven't checked it. I can't remember.
I would say it's probably between 36 and 38 thousandths in.
Yeah, I know what it looks like on the padding board, and I've got one of them mics, and I've forgotten what it says. I suppose I should have studied up before this.
Hey, that's okay.
I'm telling you, don't make these goddamn questions any tighter, or I'm going to shoot you right through the screen. Make this fun and easy, because.
Well, so like your doubles, are you shooting like most of us? Are you shooting that mod on the second shot, or are you shooting that like a mod, iMod?
20-30.
Okay. So same what I shoot.
Yeah, so very, very, very similar, with the exception you're shooting a little bit of looser choke at singles, but other than that, you're shooting up there with the ability to smoke ball a target.
There were years ago when we didn't throw the target so hard. I would shoot a 10 and a 25 or a 15, and I was really playing with open chokes, and I had hundreds in the doubles and stuff. But now the targets, the presentation's different. I don't see them as quick, and they're starting to get out there further. I mean, there's all these transitions that you have to go through if you're going to stay in the game for 50 years. You're not going to be the same shooter that you think you wanted to be or were. I have to keep reinventing it in order to stay what I feel competitive, I guess. And
that's crazy, because I agree with that. I think so many people say, well, I want to learn how to do it, and then I want to set the cruise control, and I want to crank out 99 plus average for the next 35 years. That doesn't happen, right? I mean, so like right now, and I'll just share what I'm going through. I went from an ACS Krieghoff to a Trap Special, which is a little bit higher platform rib, and Wenig's been very gracious in helping me make a new stock, and I'm transitioning, and I'm trying to get my head up more like Ricky and like these other guys, more upright instead of being down into a stock. And I got to tell you, it's relearning the game. But I know that if I don't relearn the game and take it to where I can pick something out of it, well, then I'm not going to get much better than I have been. And it's not like, I want to improve. And when you're trying to improve, sometimes you got to take a step back to take a step forward. And so many people get stuck on a number. It might even be, I break 96 in singles. Well, if you're always breaking 96 in singles, maybe you got to go back and rechange some stuff to get to 97, 98, 99 and retool the game. I mean, it sounds like you've retooled the game many times in your life.
Well, mainly you got to have desire. If the desire is there, and that is the real fuel or the lubrication to make it work. Like in 2020, the COVID year, shot at Lynn Creek, and I think I missed 4 out of the last trap of the clay target. And I think I broke a 180 something. And after we got through the Heartland Grand, there was a couple weeks between when they had the U.S. Open and the Missouri Fall Handicap at the same time. I had to go out and kind of re-event, and went through a whole process, and then came back at that and broke the lone 200. Remember that down there, Ricky?
Yep.
And I had to shoot different. I couldn't shoot the way I shot. That was the end of that road. And I had like looked at enough ways that other people shoot, and I know I could do something different and be comfortable with it, and just changed. And then now I'm riding that. Been riding that now for 2 or 3 years, and it has its ups and downs, and so you just got to be ready.
It's all part of shooting, I mean, this will be my 36th year of shooting ATA, traveling around the country, and every year, I want to try to do something different, this, that, whatever. Like Zach said, always try to get better no matter what it is. I mean, look at Dagan Voigtman, for the 2023 target year. He's going to have the high all-around average by quite a bit.
A lot.
I mean,
he's an animal.
Shot lights out, and he's 22 years old,
Yeah.
And it's cool to see that.
He needs to find some bad habits.
Well, life happens. Life is coming at him.
He's such a good guy that I'm like, Dragan, maybe I should take you to some of these places that I know about. But he's like, no. He's like, no, I got to shoot tomorrow. And I said, well, that's why you shoot for damn good, Dragan.
It's the one thing, Dale, and you've been doing this a long time. Like I said, you made captain the vet team, which is an awesome accomplishment, to be captain. And not very many have made a junior, a open, a sub vet, and a vet, So, I mean, that was kind of my goal is, in 6 years, I'll be 55. So I just turned 49, is I said, I'm going to shoot sub vet. And people were like, why would you do that? And I said, well, I've been a junior or sub junior All-American, a junior All-American. I've been open, and I was never captain of any of the sub junior or junior teams. But I was, been captain 4 times of the open team. But I said it'd be cool to be the sub vet, on the sub vet team. A little different, And speaking of that, as like goals, do you set goals at all, Dale? Or do you just, go to the shoot and say, I want to win? I mean.
Yeah, I did. I've had small goals over the years, but sometimes I'll set a real one, and which can be a pretty big bite. And I've made a couple of them, and they feel really good when you do it. And it really does seem to help you get to the next level. I mean, if you don't set a goal, then you don't have something to win or an accomplishment, a sense of accomplishment.
Yep.
So when you start getting those senses of accomplishments, then the incentive to set another one becomes better and easier, and it feels good. The captain really was a goal that I set.
Yeah.
And it was because of going in the Hall of Fame. I felt, I don't have any rings, like Lamont, like Pat does, and you and Harlan and stuff. And I got to thinking, I can't really name anything big. And I just couldn't think of any other better way that I better get my act together.
Yeah.
And so it was I felt the pressure, and I thought, well, I better get something going here. And so I went after it. I wouldn't have shot probably the Southern Grand, or wouldn't have shot what I shot, and as hard as I did. I wouldn't have stayed till Sunday night and then drive home on Monday, because shot the shoot-offs, did the due diligence.
Yep.
And some of the times I was actually shooting off for champion, like handicap champion at Michigan, out of state. And I knew I could fall back to veteran. But I just wanted those conditions, because you never know. You're going to be under the lights at Sparta, and you're going to be shooting orange under the lights, and I haven't done that in a while. You just gotta stay at it. So anytime I could think of something that might move me towards that goal, I did it. And so I had some pretty good shoots. figured out some different ways to shoot and different mindset. It's all about change. I mean, there's look at the change going from the handsets to the manual pulls.
Oh
And look
yeah.
at the change bringing the pats in, and then look at all those changes. And now look at the changes in how the target setting, the speed of the birds is faster than it used to be.
Well, and a lot
we
more
used to
face,
we used to throw them 48. Now we throw them 50 plus, and every one of them mile an hour. I mean, it's not a big deal from 46 to 48 to 49. It's not a big deal. But once you get to 50 and 52 and 53, all of a sudden that's a lot more cranks, and that blind spot gets longer. And then I'm not getting any younger. So you gotta be able. None of us getting any younger. So
No.
you gotta be able to change with this thing. And I don't know what the next change is going to be, but
well,
you know,
you've been through a lot of it. Now, talk about a little of that.
Hello, Trap Talk listeners. Today's episode is brought to you by Wenig Custom Gun Stocks.
That being said, a custom gun stock is going to elevate your game to get the same fit every single time.
And I can attest to that. I broke hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hundreds with my Wenig Custom Gun Stock.
I haven't broke hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, Rick, but I did break 100 from the 27 within 7 days of getting my stock, and broke 2 more that year and loved it.
Here, this is okay.
You would take it or me?
We'd like to thank Wenig Custom Gun Stocks for supporting Trap Talk.
That being said, everyone knows.
Winners shoot Wenig.
Are we doing the end work?
Let's ask one question. What's your favorite shoot? Where do you like to shoot? I mean, you have one of the best shoots in the country, but you don't shoot it. You run it. So,
yeah.
I mean, other than that, what's your favorite shoot?
Well, Sparta is, not to leave out any, other clubs, but Sparta is really it. And, it should be pulling in like Vandalia used to.
Oh, yeah.
Just bury that and go shoot. Legitimize your shooting and go shoot the Grand, But that's a great place to shoot. There's a lot of great places to shoot. They all have their individual quirks about them, but really the top of the peak for me every year is, to migrate to Sparta, because that's where everybody's at.
Oh, yeah.
And it's about everybody. It's not so much the physical. I mentioned it's not about the score either. It's who is there.
Yeah.
And how did you measure up?
The best.
Yeah. It's just, you just got to get in it and get into the fight and just break everything you can and see how it shakes out. It's just great.
I really think that if you look from coast to coast and you measure Sparta, the Grand, as the place where you could see where you rank against, and just really put yourself against the best guys in the world. It shows you. And there's some guys that shoot good there, and then there's some guys that shoot good in other places. And it's like, okay, well, what are we doing here over 11 days, over 2,600 birds? That in itself, I think, and this is just my own personal opinion, I really think that winning the overall in the 2,600 should be, announced as large as winning, the 1,000 mile Grand Ring, because it's just it's a daunting feat to shoot that many days in a row, that many targets in a row, and to be at the top of your game, because everybody's coming after you. Everybody's coming to the top.
To add to that is, if you're in the 2,600, you're probably shooting at night.
Oh, yeah.
And you're probably going out and doing the other things that, you're going to go to the All-American thing, and you're going to shoot the blue-gray or whatever. Then you're going to be in shoot-offs. And so you're just getting to bed whatever time, and then you're going back out to shoot. And so it's, those guys that break good handicaps every day, I don't know how they do it, because they're shooting off almost every night.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, that is true.
Me and Ricky added doing those podcasts this year. I know that took a ton of time, Rick.
Oh, yeah.
We were trying to fit that in, and I was like, I was more tired this year at the Grand than I think I've ever been.
Hey, I'm selling guns, hanging out in the vendor building, shooting, family trying to run down and watch Tyler shoot, then make it back to my squad. And, people are like, why do you do it? And I said, because I love it.
Yeah.
You
want to be out there where everybody's at,
It's, it is what it is.
But the Grand is that's my favorite place to shoot, is Sparta. And it doesn't work out for me with farming to go to like the U.S. Open when it was over July 4th, that first year it was open.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. The first year it was open, I was on Trap One the first day, the first time it was open. They don't even use that bank anymore.
No.
I broke 19600 right there on that bank that they don't use at the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
You close it down because you shot too good on the damn thing.
Oh, yeah.
So
Whatever.
Dale, I know we talk a lot about Stockdale Gun Club. We didn't get to talk about that today. We didn't get to talk about the Heartland Grand too much. So, tell us, what's different about the Heartland Grand or what you're trying to do to encourage shooters to come. I mean, just give us from your mouth to the listeners' ears, why should people come check out the Heartland and other shoots that you threw up there?
Well, there's no one thing. I mean, to me, it's kind of a mindset. If, it's like, say you got a cabin on the lake, your family's had it forever, and generations you've been going to it. And somebody goes, why do you go to the lake? Why do you go to the cabin on the lake? They'll say, well, I don't know. We just do. Can't really put your finger on what it is, or like, say you go to a movie and somebody asks you, or you ask somebody, how was that movie? Go, oh, got it. You got to go see it. You just got to go see it.
Yeah.
And they ask you, well, what's so good about it? No, you just got to go see it. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. As compared to a movie did you go see this movie? Oh, the car chase, it was great. Well, the car chase means the rest of the movie sucked. A real good movie is one that you can't put your finger on it, Yeah. So like when you're coming to running a gun club, you can't have people say, oh, we go there because the targets are great. That's like the movie with the car chase. That means the rest of the club probably needs some improvement. So it's just trying to do an overall scan of it so nobody can really say, what do they like about it? We have good food,
Everything.
We have the church, we have the birds, we do some just try to do the best you can with what you have, the money you have and what you have to work with. Just try to. And then what's good is I like to hang out with kids and teach kids and work with the college and stuff. I'm always listening to hear what the younger ones are saying. And so many younger people are coming up saying, God, Dale, I'm glad you've got 300 targets. I mean, it's such an expense for us to get out of school or to get wherever and to come to a gun club and we can shoot 300. We come here to shoot, we're going to shoot. God, don't shorten the programs.
Yep.
And man, some of the gun clubs, it's like the management's walking out with a walker and they'd be happy to shoot 100 targets to be done by 11 o'clock. That's end of that scale. Now, maybe I'm at the other end, but I'm going to try to throw targets. And they can decide not to shoot if they don't want to shoot.
Yeah.
And
you throw so many targets, I shot a lot of extra targets this year because my squad, Zach, we're shooting everything and also fighting for the spot on the All-American team for second with me and Glow. And so Glow's like, you're really shooting these? I said, well, you signed up. So if you sign up, I'm shooting them, because you can't let me get ahead.
But if you didn't have them in the program.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not there. I love that, what you said, Dale. And the reality is we're all trap shooters. We go to a trap shoot to shoot targets. And, if you don't want to shoot the events, you don't have to shoot the events. But I love going to a trap shoot where there's a lot of events for us to have the ability to shoot. And I love the efficiency at which you run a shoot. I mean, the one thing I love is rolling starts. I mean, if you've got a singles event going into a handicap event, and, everybody knows their squad. Everybody knows where they're supposed to be, right? We're not kids. We know, right? Oh, the singles is ending. My trap's open. My whole squad's here. Let's go shoot handicap. Now, obviously, making sure it's safe and there's no one next to you and it works out. But at the end of the day, just those little things, I love, I love the dinners that you do there. I love the way that you're welcoming and you always take care of everybody. And it's just like you said, the games. I mean, we shot that WADS event this last year. That was really, really cool. It's just, like you said,
screwed out of first place by Zach.
Hey, I'm sorry, Ricky. I had
He calls, and I wouldn't even have my gun mounted.
Hey,
That was
you're
was
welcome
fun.
to all the other people that were involved. I took Ricky out of the game, so
Well, we have a lot of I have a lot of there'll be people that you recognize from other clubs that
Yep.
work here,
Oh yeah.
and so when you have some of the best staff, and I have a lot of help. I mean, Matt and I can't do this alone, and we have a lot of good help that enjoys coming here, and they're not a lot of them are non-shooters like Mike Williams and Rex, the guys in the carts that set targets and fix things and stuff like that, and they just have a ball hanging out with the shooters.
Yep.
And the shooters all include them in the conversation. They start having fun. They start sharing pictures of shotguns and race cars or whatever. And I just have a lot of good help, and it's just been a lot of fun. And I think that's just basically it. It's just when everybody shows up, I know I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
And it ain't work. It's fun. And I want to be out with everybody. I want to be out there, the last guy standing and the first guy out there, because it's fun. And
It
it's
is.
all my friends. And I think nobody comes in here thinking it's going to be bad. They all looking forward to
No.
a certain amount of fun we're going to have, and we'll see what we can think of for next year.
Exactly.
You know, we had Leland's dead pair doubles marathon. Who would have thought we'd have thrown 9,100 targets?
Yeah.
This year we're going to do a night shoot, I think Sunday night before the Grand, non-registered handicap night shoot auction. Who knows? You know, we going to try it. It's really just give it a try. If it doesn't work, stop doing it. But you don't never know unless you try it.
And I think that's spot on, to try new things, to get people involved, to be creative. And, you know, earlier you said, you know, your dad raised you with a lot of honesty and a lot of integrity. And, you know, you're definitely that kind of person. And one of the things that I would say is most unique is when you go to Stockdale Gun Club and you go to practice, they don't have anyone taking tickets down there. Literally, it's an honor system, and Dale's used the honor system. And it just shows that you can still do that in this place that we live in today, and people do the right thing. And I asked Dale about it, and he's like, yep, everybody's always paid me, and it's always been good. And I think, you know, it's one of those things where everyone in the sport needs to hold themselves to that accountability.
Absolutely.
Because it's not trying to get ahead of anybody, not trying to take advantage of anybody, not trying to, you know, take a target or do anything. And, you know, Dale's one of the guys where we know if he put that score up, he definitely put that score up, because he ain't taking nothing. I mean, he ain't that kind of guy. And we noticed that about you, Dale. And you've always treated people with a lot of respect and integrity, and you know, and I think that's a big draw for people to come to your place.
Absolutely.
Well, it's such a family game. You know, I raised my kids right on the trap line. I mean, the vendors and shooters helped me raise them through those years when it was just me and the kids. And you know, like that practice trap. I mean, with the cost of the targets and the cost of the shells going up, I mean, there is less practice. And, you know, I put a half a pallet of birds down there, and there were still a few birds left at the end of the shoot. So, I mean, how much are they stealing?
Yeah.
I mean, could you afford having somebody paid to be down there?
No.
I mean, their salary's more than half a pallet of birds. You know, just a great service, and everybody here I feel is a friend of mine, and I don't worry about it. And then sometimes I'll get a check in the mail in December. You know, somebody says, "Oh, I forgot to pay. Here's your practice money." Well, then I know it's working. I mean, I know it's working. So
yeah. So
I'm not gonna change anything that's
if
working.
you forgot to pay Dale for your targets at the Heartland Grand, send a check.
Yeah,
Come on.
send a check. Yeah,
And
send a
Merry
check.
Christmas.
Well, Dale, this is the deal. You know everything about the game of trap shooting because you've been around so long. You've got such vast knowledge and so many people that you've been around. We can
learn
talk to
every
you.
day.
Hey, we can talk to you for hours, and we appreciate you giving us your time.
Absolutely.
You know, I would love to do it again. I know you won't want to ever do it again, but we'd love to do it again. You know, that being said, is there anything that you'd like to say for new shooters or advanced shooters? Is there anything else you'd like to share today before we get out of here?
Oh, not really. All I can do is just basically, yeah, it's kind of like at the Hall of Fame. I mean, I just got such a big thank you list. I mean, every every loader back in the 70s that crawled in the house and put a bird on one at a time, and everybody that pulled and everybody that shot practice. I mean, there's no way I would be sitting here in this place without everybody coming and shooting.
Yeah.
And so the thank you is not to any one individual. It's the whole game. It's the whole game. It's everybody that's ever signed up, everybody that's ever worked on the other side of the counter with me to take an entry or to figure a shoot off or to, do the classifying and all the layers and levels of work that goes behind the scenes. They all did it because they wanted to, and because of the game, and because of the fun of the shooters.
Yep.
And to have that all come here, all I can do is say thanks, because what else can you say? I mean, thanks. Just thanks to everybody. That's all I got,
Well, and that's enough, Dale. And we thank you for doing it, because
absolutely,
we enjoy it. And, we know that you'd probably love to shoot the Heartland Grand, but it's probably not going to run as good as
never going to happen.
If Dale Stockdale shooting it and winning, it's not going to be running as good as if you're just at the helm of the ship making sure that we're all there to have a good time. So, I appreciate you making that sacrifice, because, if it wasn't for you doing that, I know that it wouldn't run as smooth. And I know you do keep a lot of people there that are great and that do a lot and carry a lot of the weight, but you are definitely the guy that's making sure, I see you driving up and down the line just like everybody else. And, there's been many a time where we need a mic replaced or targets adjusted or something like that. And it's you coming out to do it. It's not, there's your staff also, but I mean, your hands are dirty and you're getting in there and doing the jobs and making sure that everything runs right. And that just shows us that you really care about the success of the shoot and the happiness of the shooters. Yeah, and I think a lot of gun clubs get away from that at some level. And I think the more that you focus on, making sure the shooter has a good experience and making sure that they feel like they're listened to, that's what makes them want to come back out, So,
well, we're only going to pass through once.
Yeah,
so
we want a repeat customer.
You got to have fun or forget it.
Ricky, am I missing anything?
No, I think it was a good episode. I want to reiterate to everybody is come to the Heartland Grand next year. It's a great shoot, guys. It really is. I mean, I know we got the Grand and then you have the Cardinal Classic and then boom, it's the Heartland, but put the Heartland Grand on your list. It's one of the best shoots. Dale throws some of the best targets, the best, games every night, doing different stuff, and it's just fun. It is. It's a great time. It's literally where he's sitting at right now is in the basement, the clubhouse, which is his basement. It's a walk-through basement, both sides of his house. That's the clubhouse, folks. So, it's at his farm. It's the old saying, build it, they will come. I've been to Dale's club since '88, and it has changed with adding traps. Oh, next thing there's more camping. Oh, now there's more camping. Now there's more traps. So, it's one of the gun clubs that's building. It's his gun club. He owns it. It's not a state ran facility. It's not a board ran. It's a Dale Stockdale ran, with the help of his son. So, help out. Come to his shoot. Let's throw more targets and make it even a bigger and better shoot.
I think it's not far from getting to a 5, is it, Dale?
Oh, it's got a ways to go yet. I can't, man. It's probably 200 or so.
Well, you know what we could do, Dale? We could add in some college trophies for the weekend. Mm-hmm. And honestly, we do that, we'll get some of the college teams there. Problem is, we'll be shooting under the lights, which that's fun.
Well, we haven't thrown the forms away, and you can see I still got a couple 100 feet, several hundred. I got enough. We have enough room for 4 more traps, and so we're kind of thinking about it. We'll see what happens, but I own the traps and I got the voice releases. All I got to do is run the concrete and
need the concrete and yeah,
and
the
concrete, the chairs, and all the details.
A little more work, right, Dale?
Yeah, the trouble with is we do it all ourselves, and usually at the end of one of those events, put the last 4 traps cost me a little bit personally, with my wrist, and so I think, what's the next 4 going to cost, and how's that going to affect my shooting?
Yeah, we don't want you to get hurt. We want you in the game for a very long time. And
Absolutely.
And, like I said, we're going to have you on again, even if I got to tie you up and get you on, because
Zach, we're not doing it. We're not doing an in-person one. He's gonna pull that pistol out. So
yeah, I don't want to pull that pistol again. That scared me a little bit, Dale. But
I told you be careful in them questions.
I'm sure we got a bunch of stories. I would love to sit down and just do story time with Dale, where you could tell us more about just some of the guys that you've talked to, and maybe even more stories about you and your dad. I'm sure the listeners would love that.
Absolutely.
We want to thank our sponsors, Remington, Wenig, Shot Tracker, Ricky Marshall Jr. Shooting Clinics, RM Shooting Clinics. And if you need a financial advisor, Zach and Nini at your service. Thank you guys for listening on this episode, and we will catch you again next Friday.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to Trap Talk.